All right, so I'm just picking up where we left off with the Tumbling Blocks Get Squared blanket, working the variant one which has these loopy corners. The reason why I prefer this one with the loopy corners, there is another easier variant that you could try as well. You could always practice that first and then try this one after. But the reason why I like these corners is they are more consistent with the rest of the blanket, where the tumbling blocks have a little bit of a gap that is standard for corner to corner tumbling block stitch. So it just makes the appearance more consistent throughout. So we left off with joining our 3 chain from our last corner back into this stitch here, which was the last double crochet stitch in the block, corner block. So what I now need to do is slip stitch over into the loop here for the tumbling block, like so. So I want to continue with this particular colour. I'll show you in another round changing a colour. What I'm going to do now is slip stitch to the left of this 3 chain here so that I can get up to the top of this tumbling block so I can work another tumbling block. So what I'm just going to do is slip stitch into space here, then do another slip stitch just exactly the same way. So hook through the hole there, the gap between the 3 chain and the double crochet alongside, slip stitch, and now I'm going to do 3 chains. Now I need to work this round on the wrong side, so we're going to turn it over, and I've got that 3 chain there to stand for the height of my tumbling block. Now I'm going to work in this gap here, so we're working over the 3 chain plus those slip stitches we just made. So I'm going to do 3 double crochet stitches, 1, 2, 3, like so. And then I want to join this tumbling block to the corner. So in order to do that, I'm going to skip all these chain stitches, and then I'm looking for the first double crochet stitch, which I found here. So one just there. So I want to slip stitch into that one, like so. So we've joined our first tumbling block to the first corner that we want to make. So now to make the corner, we need to 1, 2, 3. It's exactly the same as corners from the last round that we did. So do 3 chain, slip stitch into the last double crochet of this corner square. 1, 2, 3. Turn the work, slip stitch back where the first 3 chain originated from. So reusing some of these stitches again. So we've made our double loop now. Now we want a 3 chain so we can get the height of that corner square that we need, corner block if you like. So now you can see we've got the 2 3 chains here, so we want to work over both of them. So putting the hook, inserting the hook through here. 1, 2, 3, 4. We always do 4 double crochet stitches over these loops. Just like I was saying before, it just makes it a little bit neater if we make the corner blocks nice and plump. Okay, so we need to do 3 chain because we've got to get back down the bottom of this corner block now. So we want to slip stitch not into the loop gap but into this stitch alongside, which was the last double crochet stitch from the previous round, like so. So now we've now made a tumbling block, first tumbling block, and 1 corner block as well. So now what I want to do is slip stitch into this loop that we're going to work the next tumbling block. So stitch across. If you forget, like I was about to, doesn't really matter. Not that big a deal. So 3 chain to stand for the height of this tumbling block, and then we're going to work 3 double crochet stitches just over that side loop there of the corner from the previous round. Okay, so now we've got tumbling block, corner, tumbling block. So what happens with this blanket is each round the tumbling blocks will increase by 1 for each side, so that's 4 in the round in total. So this time around, sorry, I probably went through that without explaining it. This time around, I've completed my 3 double crochet stitches for that tumbling block. Now, instead of joining to a corner, because I have a tumbling block here in the middle, I'm going to join to that tumbling block instead. And it's like normal corner to corner stitching. What I do is I join it into that loop there. So I'm going to put my hook through the loop from front to back, pull the yarn through and make a slip stitch like so. Just pull it nice and tight. Then I can work my next tumbling block. So now we've got 2 tumbling blocks between corners. And next round we'll have 3 tumbling blocks between corners. It's the same principle though. Right, like so. So now what I can do is, because now we've got to a corner, is join into the corner. So skipping the 3 chain, joining by slip stitch into the first double crochet stitch like so. Now I need to make my loopy corner. So we've made quite a few of those by now, so hopefully you'll be able to follow along without me elaborating terribly much on that. So working over that double loop like so. How many did I do? 2. I did 2, so 2 more. Like so. And then our 3 chain. What I'll do is I'll just show you working one more side, and then I'll pause while you work up the remainder of the sides. I'm going to slip stitch across to this loop gap here. Now we're making the 3 chain to stand for the height of our tumbling block. So I'm making the first tumbling block of the next side now. So you can see now that we've actually got one side done. So we've got corner, 1, 2 tumbling blocks, corner. So now I'm heading on to the next side. I've got 1 tumbling block done already. Now remembering this time around, because we've got a tumbling block to join into, we don't have to join to a stitch. We just join through this loop here that we're going to work the next tumbling block. So we do a slip stitch to join. 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to do 3 DCs for our tumbling block. So it's always the same number of double crochet stitches for your tumbling blocks. Like I said, I usually do 3, you could do 2, and then it's always the same number of stitches for your corner stitches as well. Probably if you're only doing 2 double crochets into your tumbling blocks, you don't want it to be doing 4, probably 3 into your corners, and you might want to change the number of chains you use to make the loop, but you could experiment around with that as you please. All right, I'll just do this corner so you can see what it looks like with 2 sides done, and then I'll pause. Hopefully it's becoming clearer now. And yeah, I mean, if I wasn't trying to video this in an awkward position, I'd actually be working this up extremely quickly. Like, you can make a decent sized blanket, in a very small number of short nights with this technique. It's extraordinarily quick. So I'm actually going to be making this particular one. It's going to turn into a blanket for a local cancer care centre. So hopefully whichever particular person receives this will enjoy it. they're probably these blankets, the corner to corner or tumbling block stitch in the round, actually probably the favourite blankets in my household. I don't know why it is, but the kids absolutely love them, and I have to admit I like snuggling under them as well. All right, so now you can see we're still on the wrong side at the moment because I haven't finished the round, but you can see that we've got 2 sides done, and I've now done 1, 2, 3 corners. So we've got tumbling blocks here, a corner, and a tumbling block here to go. So what I'll do is I'll pause and let you do the 1, 2 tumbling blocks, the corner, and this last tumbling block here, and then we'll join it to this particular block there. Okay, so I've made all my blocks around. I have 8 tumbling blocks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I've got 4 corner blocks. All that remains to be done now to complete this round is to actually join these 2 tumbling blocks together. So the first tumbling block that we worked and the last tumbling block that we have worked. And that's just as you normally do by simple slip stitch. The place that you do this is into the base loop of that first tumbling block, so just like so. Now, if I was to continue along with this same colour, I would be doing exactly the same thing as I've done in previous rounds, and I would be slip stitching across into this gap here between the 3 chain and the first double crochet of that tumbling block, so like so. 1, 2 slip stitches into that gap, and then your 3 chains, 1, 2, 3, to stand for your tumbling block stitch. So then we'd obviously have to reverse it and work over both the 3 chain and the 2 slip stitches there into that gap. I am actually going to change my yarn colour now though, so just going to secure this off, pull that through. I've actually started another one of these earlier in the same yarn, so I might just, which is a bit neater because I'm not trying to do it a video, so I might just not cut that at the moment, but that's the, if we turn it back to the right side, that's at the right side. You can see that lovely texture is starting to form there. So I'm just going to grab another colour of yarn. So we're going to change the colour. What I'll do is start with the equivalent block on a different side from where we were working with the same colour previously. So I'm just going to rotate this around, and what I'm going to do is join my yarn to the tumbling block that is just anti-clockwise from the centre of that particular side. So I'll join my yarn in here. I'm joining it into the loop rather than into a stitch. So work my 3 chains, turn that over. Now, because we were working the wrong side previously, we're back to the right side again. So we've done 2 rounds on the right side, and we've done 2 rounds on the wrong side. So now we're back to the right side again to work this round, which is round 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I've decided to make a colour change. So I've joined my yarn in the loop here, and I've made 3 chain to count for the height of my first tumbling block that I'm going to work. And you can see we are starting midway through the sides. That means it will also finish up midway through that side as well. So we're going to work these tumbling block stitches just the same as what we have previously. The only thing that's changed here is we've just changed the colour. So instead of having to slip stitch up to get to the right position to make the tumbling block, we can join the yarn in the correct position in the first place, so we don't have to worry about slip stitches. Now, as you remember, we are connecting tumbling blocks by slip stitch into this loop here rather than into a stitch, and working 3 chains again. Same process to make another tumbling block. So we had 2 tumbling blocks per corner on the previous round, so it's 3 tumbling blocks, sorry, per side on the previous round. So now it's 3 tumbling blocks per side on this round. So again, now I've come to a corner, so I need to join my tumbling block to my corner. So I'm going to use the double crochet stitch, the first one that's available in that corner, skipping those 3 chains. I'm going to make my loopy corners, so 1, 2, 3 chains, slip stitch into the last double crochet stitch in that corner, like so. We need 3 chains again, and I'm turning my work again, and slip stitch back into that first double crochet stitch, and 3 chains because we need to make this corner block. So we need the 3 chains for the height for the corner block. So again, same process as we have done in previous rounds, just working over those 2 loops and making 4 double crochet stitches. And 3 chains, slip stitch back into that double crochet stitch. Okay, so we've now made 2 tumbling blocks and a corner in our different colour yarn. So remembering when we make this next tumbling block after we've just made the corner, that we need to slip stitch across to the loop here. Make 3 chains, work 3 double crochet stitches over that loop, and joining the tumbling block to the top of that loop of the tumbling block from the previous round. So not into a stitch but into the loop, like so. One, 2, 3 stitches, 3 chains, and working your 3 double crochet stitches over that loop there. Right, so now we've made 2 tumbling blocks on this particular side, on the second side that we're working. So remember, we're making 3 per side now, and you can see certainly there's still room for another block here before we work the corner. So we'll just join this tumbling block up to the loop of this tumbling block from the previous round, like so, with a slip stitch as per usual. Make my 3 chains, and then work my 3 double crochet stitches. I think after you've worked a number of rounds, it will certainly become a lot easier to work out where to do slip stitches and where to do double crochets. So now I'm just going to join that tumbling block to my corner block from the previous round, so skipping all the 3 chains and working into the top of the first double crochet stitch instead. Make a loopy corner with 3 chains, slip stitch into the last double crochet in that corner block, 3 chains, turn, slip stitch back into that first double crochet, 3 chains to get the height for our corner block, and then working our 4 stitches, so 4 double crochets right over those 2 loops, like so. And finally doing our 3 chains and then slip stitching back into that double crochet stitch at the base there. So now you can see that we have a whole side constructed with the corners, and we've got 2/3 of the tumbling blocks for this side construction. When we finish up, we'll be making that tumbling block there. So what I'm going to do is make this side here and the bottom side as well, and I'll make the last last corner and last tumbling block too. So if you want to go ahead and do that as well, and then we'll just slip stitch into the first tumbling block we made to complete the round. Okay, so you can see now that we've got all our sides completed, and we've come back to where we commenced, and that's our first tumbling block that we initially made. This is the last tumbling block that we've made, and all we need to now do is just join those together to complete the round. So because the tumbling block, this edge or this corner here needs to come back and be joined into the tumbling block from the previous round, we need to use this loop here. So you're basically ending where you first began. It's the easiest way to remember it. So I put my hook through there, through that loop there, make a slip stitch. And just to show you one more time, if we're continuing on with the same colour, what we need to do is use this 3-chain loop here, and we actually slip stitch in between that loop and the first double crochet stitch to get back up to the top of the tumbling block. So 1, 2, like so. And then I need to do 3 chains to count for the height of my first tumbling block when I reverse the work and start making my next round. So I've just made 3. And you see now that I'm turning my work, and what I'm looking to do is work over the 3 chain and those 2 slip stitches that we just made. So we're just going to cover those up essentially with our 3 double crochets to make our first tumbling block for this next round. Except for I'm working over the tail of the yarn as well. Anyway, you get the idea. So that's 1, 2, 3. So that's our first tumbling block. Now, heading in the other direction when we've reversed our work, we're back on the wrong side again. And you can see from counting here, we're on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th row. Row round. Oh, see, I've gone loopy from my loopy corners. Anyway, and so what we need to do is join that first tumbling block that we've made into the tumbling block from the previous round. So again, for the tumbling blocks, rather than using the stitches, we're using these loops here, the 3-chain loops. So put my hook through, pull the yarn through, make a slip stitch, and then making our next tumbling block. Like so. And then you can see we've met with the corner again, so we need to join to the corner. Same principle, skipping the 3-chain and stitching into the first double crochet there. So that's how we then continue around, and at the moment I'm with this blanket looking to do another 4 rounds with that particular colour, and then I'll swap to another colour. So if you do want to see any more rounds, please let me know. I think that might be enough to get you going, but I understand it can be a little bit confusing, especially if you haven't designed it yourself. It's confusing for me sometimes. So if you do need to see more, then please leave me a comment as such. But anyway, I hope that that gets you going with it, and that you make some really beautiful corner to corner in the round blankets, and love to see your work. So if you want to make a project on Ravelry, or come find me on my Facebook page or my Instagram page, or tag me on Instagram. And yeah, I'd love to see your works. Look forward to seeing them. Bye.